Less than 25% of the trillions of dollars in stimulus relief has been used so far, according to a new Treasury Department report. That's due to all the restrictions and red tape that come with the relief, meaning local leaders can barely even use it. All this red tape is leaving concern for further stimulus relief. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance senior columnist Rick Newman. Rick, you spoke to Kirsten Gillibrand about this very issue. What did she have to say?
Yeah, she's the Democratic senator from New York, and I expected her to say, yeah, we'll reach a deal eventually. We all kind of know where this is heading. We're just going to meet in the middle between Democrats and Republicans. She was not that optimistic. She said, no, we remain very far apart. Let's give a listen to what she had to say.
Well, in Mitch McConnell's opening bid, the things he's prioritized are not things Democrats are prioritizing. For example, he said, in no uncertain terms, it has to include liability protection. And what Democrats are hoping for is a new emergency OSHA standard, so that there's a new standard for businesses to follow. And obviously, if they don't follow it or they are reckless, then they can be sued. But a blanket liability protection would mean bad employers who are abusing their privilege would not have any consequences or be able to be held accountable, which sounds dangerous to me. So, but there's not a lot of common ground in the $1 trillion that was put forward. The one place we do agree actually is on small businesses. Both the Republicans and Democrats do want to keep lending and giving grant money to small businesses to stay open and to keep paying their employees.
Republicans and Democrats also agree, Brian, on another one-time stimulus check, which would probably be around $1,200, the same as it was last time. But they're far apart also on supplemental unemployment insurance. Democrats said it should be $600 a week. Continued, that's what it was, that's expiring this week. Republicans say it should only be $200. I think it's possible on that one we could see a compromise at around $400. But you heard Senator Gillibrand describe some of the other major differences between D's and R's at this point.
Rick, you're always reading these tea leaves in D.C. What are the chances that a deal doesn't get done in August?
I think they have to do something. If a deal doesn't happen, they're supposed to go on recess August 7th, go home, go on vacation, go back to their districts, whatever. And if they split down without some kind of new stimulus, I think you'd see the market plunge for one thing. And that's pretty much the trigger to get Congress to act. So, these deadlines actually serve a purpose. When there is a deadline, it does help Congress get to the finish line. And just let's keep in mind, I mean, the minimum amount of stimulus we're going to see is $1 trillion. That's the Republicans. The Democrats want $3 trillion. So I think we're going to see something around $1.5 trillion before they go on recess in about 10 days.
Rick, I want to get your thoughts on this Trump tweet this morning about moving the election. But one moment, although, I want to get back to that employment insurance. It looks like it's going to lapse tomorrow without a deal from Congress. And now some states might actually move in. There was a report that California might take matters into its own hands and try to fill that gap. They certainly can't afford it at the state level. But do you think that that's something feasible? Might we see states move in here to try to fill that gap?
They could do that in the short term, but states are in quite a bind because they can't borrow money. They can't do deficit spending the way the federal government can. Almost every state is required to balance its budget. So they can do short-term things, move money around. They cannot do that on an ongoing basis the way Congress can. So that might be just a patch, Alexis, that some states do. Congress, remember, could make this retroactive. If they end up missing a week or two, they could just fill the gap and do it retroactively. That Trump tweet, that's got a lot of people in a lather. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I think we have it to show everybody. He says 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history, and it will be a great embarrassment to the USA. He's talking about delaying it. He can't even do that, right? That's not within his power.
Yeah. So he basically said in that tweet, should we delay the election, with, I think, 3 question marks? So what's the purpose here? I mean, I think, this is an outrageous thing for any president to suggest. The president cannot delay the election. That would require Congress to act, and there's no chance Congress is going to do that. And by the way, if there is no presidential election, Trump's term expires on January 20th, 2021. So let's say theoretically, hypothetically, there is no election all the way up to January. Trump is gone. He doesn't get to stay in office indefinitely. I'm sure he knows that, or some aides have told him that. But what's he doing here? I mean, Trump has a habit of whenever there's some bad news he doesn't want you to take notice of, he creates some controversy and gets everybody to snap their head in the other direction. So what might the bad news be? He doesn't want anybody to notice today that terrible GDP report combined with another 1.4 million people filing for initial unemployment claims. I mean, the economy is doing terribly, and Trump is probably just trying to distract attention from that. That does not mean the election is going to go smoothly, but everybody should know Trump cannot delay the election.
Either way, Rick Newman, you have my vote come November. Rick Newman, always good to see you.
See you guys.
All right, you can catch Rick's full interview of Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. You just go to yahoofinance.com/presents.